domestic airlines under the aegis of the Air Operators of Nigeria have expressed concerns over the proposed partnership between the federal government and Ethiopian Airlines to form a national carrier scheduled to begin operations by December. They said the agreement was tantamount to opening the nation's domestic market to a foreign carrier, a development they said could decimate the local airline industry and lead to capital flight. The United Arab Emirates immigration authorities have announced a ban on visa applications for Nigerians, and a notice issued on Friday to its trade partners in Nigeria, including travel agents. The Dubai authorities said that all Dubai applications submitted are now rejected. Joining us to discuss further, the president of the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association of Nigeria, Mr. Alex Nwuba. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Good morning to you.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Yes. I want to start with the Nigeria Air, recurring topic in the nation. What's your take? Did the domestic airlines have an argument?
Yes, they do, certainly. The airlines and the industry at large is not in disagreement with the concept of a national carrier. They're just in disagreement with the mode in which it is where the attempt is being made to achieve it.
Okay,
yes.
okay. So what are the real concerns then with respect to those domestic airlines? As far as, can they compete, for instance?
Well, a poll was done last week, and Nigerians were asked, do you think we need a national carrier? And 76% said, yes, we need a national carrier.
Okay.
The follow-up question was, should it be foreign-owned? And the answer, 93% overwhelmingly said no.
Oh.
And the reason is very simple. Why do we want a national carrier in the first place? From the government side and from the parts of the citizens, we're concerned about, like you said, capital flight. Basically, most Nigerian carriers are not going abroad, so foreign carriers are coming here to take Nigerians out to the tune of where we now owe $700 million that has to be sent out of this country, competing with all of the things we need to do domestically. So that's one of the concerns. So Nigerians want to travel. Nigerians travel. They're the largest travel market in the region, and they want to travel, but they would like to see a Nigerian carrier do that. One, for ego. We like to feel, everybody wants to feel we're doing it ourselves, and that's one of the key points. The other thing is we want to see foreign exchange.
Okay. Would, going by that poll then, with 90+% saying no, it shouldn't be foreign owned, would the alternative be the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, which holds some airlines, to nationalize that since it's already under the government's purview?
It's an option. It's an option to nationalize. The government already owns 3 airlines as we speak. They own NG Ego, they own Eric Air, they own Aero Contractors. They could have converted any of those airlines to be the national carrier, and that would overcome the excuse the government is having for Ethiopian Airlines, being that if we started a national carrier today, it would have to operate for 2 years to fly internationally, which is the aim. So the government has that option. The government also has an option to work with existing private airlines to establish operations for them to go. Air Peace has equipped itself, it's bought long-haul aircrafts, but it's not able to do that because the bilateral air service agreements under which it would fly are not being, the government is not pushing for other countries to open up those opportunities for Nigerian airlines, whereas their airlines are coming into multiple airports. Take for example, Ethiopian Airlines comes into 4 airports in Nigeria, so there's not much capacity there for the domestic airlines to carry. So that's the push, is that we should develop it from within. That's the challenge. That's what people are expecting.
Yeah. The single African air transport market is, I guess, supposed to provide, I guess that's from the African Union, to provide a single market to allow ease of travel for African airlines. What, if you consider that, what would then be, is there an argument for the benefit of Ethiopian Air coming in?
Well, there is absolutely no benefit for Ethiopian Air coming in.
Yeah.
The only reason Ethiopian Air wants to come in is Ethiopian Air wants to dominate the African market. And it's not so much to dominate the African market to fly within Africa. They want to take advantage of the bilateral agreements between individual countries. That's why they're already in a number of countries providing air travel for international flights. And so bringing them into the Nigerian market, look, I don't think there would have been too much opposition if Ethiopian itself said, I want to enter as an airline to the Nigerian market without government support. Then they would operate like every other airline. 2 new airlines have sprung up already. And so what the problem here is that this is a government-supported international airline. Now, what will that airline do? Since its mission is to dominate the African airspace, what we then do is we'll employ a red ocean strategy, make the domestic market a loss leader, then carry all of the international flights out of Nigeria under the bilateral air service agreements. When that happens, when the existing private airlines are no longer making money, they would exit the market. It would then consolidate and will basically achieve its aim to dominate the African airspace market. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with Ethiopia wishing to dominate the African airspace market. Nothing wrong with Emirates wishing to dominate the Middle Eastern market or the global airline market. What we are saying is that Nigeria as a country should aspire to do the same. And in aspiring to do the same, what you do is build the capacity internally through a national carrier you establish through many mechanisms. Conversion of the airlines, you already exist. Conversion of private carriers or starting a new airline, driven, run, operated as Nigeria Air and owned and operated by Nigerians.
All right, fantastic. What about, as you can see, I'm taking the other side here to make this as balanced as possible. What about the argument that Ethiopian Air coming in would create jobs? What about the jobs aspect?
Well, Ethiopian is a fully established airline. It's been around for 75 years. It has most of the things it needs to operate an airline and will bring airplanes into Nigeria with jobs from Ethiopia as well. So how many jobs are created? It's the same question that is asked that today, look, it's not the fact that Nigerians can't travel. You have British Airways, you have KLM, you have Lufthansa, you have Air France, you have all of these things. They come to Nigeria, they employ a station manager, a few people to run their offices, but the bulk of the jobs remain in their home countries. It will be no different with Ethiopian Airlines under the current model where the government is leasing aircraft from Ethiopian Airlines. So this is what happened. Ethiopia will bring airplanes to Nigeria, dry lease, wet lease, whatever we call it, and they will take foreign exchange for the lease of that airplane. The airplanes will go back to Ethiopia for maintenance. They'll take foreign exchange out of Nigeria for the maintenance. They'll bring their crews. Even if they transition to Nigerian crews, those crews will be trained in Ethiopia. So it's a win-win for Ethiopia, no benefit for the Nigerian economy. No jobs really. I mean, if you say 1 or 2 jobs, fine, that's 1 or 2 jobs, but that's not what Nigeria wants to do. Nigeria wants to develop its aviation economy and aviation industry at par to Ethiopia, to France, to Germany, to the UK, etc.
Thank you so much for that. What about those, if you think about where we are, the issues with jet fuel, still the lingering effects on the pandemic and other issues, is now the right time for, if we expand this discussion, is now the right time for a national carrier?
Well, you started this session by saying, why are aviation's problems never ending?
Right.
And of course, we've dealt over the year the issue of fuel, the issue of maintenance, the issue of foreign exchange. None of these things are addressed by this Nigeria Air transaction. It's just another player in the field that doesn't deal with the issues. And that's my point, that government should focus all of its energies on solving the real problems, foreign exchange problem, which will establishment of maintenance facilities. Ibom Air is building a fantastic facility in Uyo. A few other facilities are springing up, and so all of these things are basically the focus. That is where government should focus its energies, not on trying to start another airline. There are lots of airlines, and if you look at where they want to start an airline that takes you from Lagos to Abuja, Lagos to Port Harcourt. We already have that. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about an airline that solves the real problems, taking us to Europe, taking us to America, payment in Naira, where the repatriation of funds problem is reduced. Those are the problems that need to be done. Why that's not done is because the existing policies don't encourage that, and one of these countries will want to adopt their technology and their airlines and their operations are solving those problems for themselves.
Sounds like there's so much that has to be overcome and done for this to happen. So realistically, if we look at the timeline for this to happen, if we're to take the approach that you're talking about, reassess everything, a national airline a national carrier, we're probably looking at more than a year out if we have to go back and take the strategy that you're looking to adopt.
Well, I think the basic principle of life is always take your time to get the thing done right. Don't be in a rush to get it wrong.
Yeah.
It's what's happened all the time. It happened with Virgin. It's why we no longer have Nigerian Airways. It's why the industry is not growing. We want to find quick solutions to the problem. One of the quick solutions we're looking for, bring Ethiopian Airlines. They're very successful. Come and run Nigeria Air and get it going by December. That doesn't address the issue. The issue is, what are the problems that the country faces? How do we address those problems? How do we move forward? How do we build for the future? And that's the real question we need to be addressing as a government.
And the reason why I asked you about that timeline, it took Ethiopian Air, I think, about 75, 80 years or so to get where it is today. So using that, would a theoretical Nigerian Air be able to compete off the bat, or would it take time?
We live in a different world now.
Yeah.
we live in a leapfrog world. 75 years ago, when Ethiopian was founded, you didn't have airplanes that could cross the entire earth in one flight.
Wow.
You didn't have the technology to reach consumers based on their personal preferences like we have with the internet. So what it took Ethiopia 75 years can take Nigeria 7 years if we start right. The key is taking the appropriate steps to start right, and we are not taking the appropriate steps to start right. We're trying to jumpstart the process by hopping through the necessity. You know, that expression we tell our kids, if you miss several steps, you'll find yourself at the beginning. That's where we're heading to once again.
Thank you. A few minutes to go, I do have to get your thoughts on these kind of related, the UAE, not the visa ban on Nigeria. There's been so much back and forth. What do you make of this latest developments with this, I guess, blanket ban now on visas?
Well, what I had said was that all applications are rejected. It means they're not even reviewing them. You know, I'm one of those that believes that, so what's in the UAE that isn't in Nigeria? And if it isn't here, why can't we get it? The reason we can't is we're not dealing with the fundamentals. The UAE was a desert some 20 years ago with nothing going on. The government set up a policy to say, let's establish Emirates to bring everybody to the UAE as a hub. That's what we should be thinking about in Nigeria. This visa issue is secondary. The UAE said, we will bring everybody to Dubai as a hub to get them to every part of the world. We consider ourselves the center of the earth. If you look at the same earth, Nigeria is the center of the earth. And so beyond getting people from point to point or point to point via Dubai, the additional step was, since they're passing through Dubai, why can't we get them to experience something in Dubai? What is that something? It doesn't really exist. They created it. On the other hand, Nigeria has everything the UAE doesn't. And so the focus should not be whether they ban us or they don't ban. If they don't ban us, so what? There are too many other destinations to go to.
Right.
And so if it's Disney, Dubai, Disney's in France. If it's the desert, if you look in the north, we have far better real-life deserts than they have. If it's the shopping experience, shopping can be created anywhere. So if we get our airline right, done by Nigerians, for Nigerians, the Nigerian way, we will establish what the UAE doesn't have. We already have most of what they don't have. We just need the capacity to get people. Look, tourism is providing less than 5% to our GDP, and we already have the first, sometimes second largest GDP in Africa. So if we could increase that number to 20, your earlier discussion was about solving the economic problems.
Yeah.
If we get our airline right, we would be a long way to solving our economic problems. So if they wish to ban us, too bad. I mean, it's not a big deal. There are too many places to go to. We don't even know why we're concerned about being banned or not being banned.
Gotcha. So it looks like to summarize this, the theme seems to be planning. Planning, properly with due time for a national carrier, also planning to get your tourism sector well established so you don't have to worry about being banned by other nations whose natural resources you actually you have better than they do. That seems to be the theme.
Well,
planning.
This has been on the table for a long time. The president promised this in his first term. The first term went. The second term, we had a roadshow 4 years ago, essentially. We got a ribbon. We showed a ribbon of what will come. What happened in all that period to suddenly have this bid? And look at what was said about the bid. Ethiopia was the only carrier allowed to bid. Okay?
Yeah.
Why? And then we hear now that Ethiopian is an Ethiopian consortium. Who is the Ethiopian consortium? Who are the Nigerian shareholders? We had plenty of time to plan. I don't know what we did with all of that time, but we suddenly can't rush it at the very end and say we're going to get it right. We need to start to get things right in Nigeria. We need to get them right in the petroleum sector. The financial sector is doing very well. We need to get them right in agriculture. We've done a few things in that space. We need to get the economy right. We need to get proper thinking done for proper solutions, not just this sew it up, package it, and send it out. It's not going to work. It has never worked, and it's not going to deliver this time.
Very pertinent words, considering we have an election in a few months. So to get that right, a pleasure having you, sir. Mr. Alex Nwuba, the President, Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association of Nigeria. A pleasure having you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure being here this morning. Thank you.